Hi everybody, it's Billy again. Thank you everyone for watching my tutorials and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to work on a beaded medallion that I've completed, and I'm going to show you how to put it together, put the necklace on and finish it up. So I have my necklace, I have my medallion, I've beaded it on pelin. And I also have my necklace that I've strung, and I've used seed beads, size 8 seed beads. I have some bone on there and some glass beads, and I've strung it on sinew. And I prefer to use sinew because it's strong, it's gonna last a long time, it's not gonna break. For this one, I'm going to trim all of the excess pelin off, and I'm going to trim it at 2 millimeters. I'm just going to go back and clean it up. You can see that this is a little bit wider, so I'm going to go in and carefully trim it up so that it's all nice and even, and that helps with the bead count and evenness of the finished product. And I have a plastic lid that I'm going to recycle and use for my project. And I have these marks here, just helps me with placement. So I'm just going to take my pen and I'm going to trace around the outside of the pelin. The beadwork is going to wrap around this edge, and if I cut this the same size, it's going to be hard to sew the beads on through the plastic. So I have 2 millimeters here, and then I'm going to add another millimeter to go inside the beading. So I'm going to take off about 3 millimeters, and it doesn't have to be perfect. This plastic is going to be sandwiched in between the layers, so it's going to go in between my beadwork and my backing material. Some people use vinyl for their backing, some people use buckskin, velvet, whatever you prefer to use for your backing. So I'm just going to kind of give it a rough cut. And then I'm going to give it a trim. And you can see that I've scored it with my little awl on both sides. And that's just going to give my E6000 somewhere to attach to. You have to cure it for usually overnight. But, and it sticks to almost anything. But I've just, as a precaution, just scored the plastic lid. So I have my E6000. I'm just gonna squeeze it onto my medallion. So you can see I have a thin layer on the back of my necklace. And now I'm going to place my necklace on my marks. Then I'll just trim those. Then I'm going to sandwich the back on and press in place. So I have my medallion, my necklace, there's the lines. I've sandwiched the plastic over top, and I have a nice piece of buckskin here. Smells so good. And I've cut it slightly larger than the medallion. And I've layered some glue on the back side. Again, you can see it. And I'm just going to take my buckskin and I'm going to place it on the back side. And so you can see I have a little bit of extra buckskin around the edges. And you can see my marks. I'm just going to make sure I pull those beads where they need to be on those lines so that they dry there. And I'm just going to give it a good firm press. And then I'm going to leave that to dry overnight. Now that the glue has had a chance to set, I'm just going to go in and trim the buckskin flush with the pelin. I'm going to do a wrapped edge, and I have my needle here and it's double threaded, and I have it knotted on the end. And what I've done is I've passed it between the layers and I've come up right at the edge of the beadwork. I've also put my necklace in a baggie, a little Ziploc bag, and zipped it up. It just helps keep it out of the way and the threads don't get tangled around that. So there's my 6 beads. And what I'm going to do is, when you wrap it around, you're going to bring it back through. And you're going to leave a little bit of space to allow for the next row of beads. And that space will depend on the size beads that you're using. I'm using 11 Charlotte cuts. So I've done 1 pass. Six more beads, so leaving a little bit of space. And those beads should snug right up and sit beside the last row. Six more beads. It's my dog barking, doing his job. And if you could see, when you wrap it around to the back, they're lined up nice and even. And when I come through back to the other side, it's kind of on a slight angle. You can see my needle coming out there. Snug it up and tighten it, and it's going to sit right beside that last row. 6 more beads, wraps to the back, and it's gonna be always the same distance. And you're gonna come on a slight angle, and your needle will come out beside that row of beads and pull. And you're going to repeat that step all the way around the edge. So this is a wrapped edge, and you could draw lines and make a pattern of all the different colors of your beadwork. You could do a solid color. This is one way of doing edging. There's so many different edges that you can bead, and this is just the one I did for today. So I'm on the last row, and I'm going to poke my needle through on a diagonal again, and I'm going to come up just at the bottom of that first row of beads that I started with, so that my needle comes out underneath there. And I'm just going to pull it through, snug up the beads, and then going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it through that first row that I did. Just bring the needle through that first row of beads. All the way to the back. And that's just going to help secure it. And I don't like knots. I don't like seeing knots. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it through the layers of buckskin and come out between the beads. And then I'm going to do that again. A few times. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to pass it through, and I'm going to come up between the rows of beads. And I'm going to trim my thread. I'm going to separate them and make a knot and pull it tight so that it knots in between the rows. Do it one more time, pull it tight, and then trim it nice and flush. And that's not going to come undone because I've woven it through the buckskin. So here's my finished medallion where the necklace is attached. And this is it, all finished and completed. There's the back side. It's all ready to go.